was the biggest thing I had to get used to, and it was to me it was a big misconception of, you know, they're quiet as far to some extent, but they're a lot louder, you know, when it's time for the match to finish up and you're in the go home part of your match. They, you know, they're stomping their feet, especially if you're putting on a good one. You know, they're yelling and screaming for you, but at all times during the match, man, you had all these Japanese women screaming your name, and that's a good feeling, having these gorgeous ass women go, CW! I remember there was one on that point. There was one match where we were at Corrigan Hall, and you know Corrigan Hall is like Madison Square Gardens over there, man. It's a great place to work, and Carino's working Hashimoto, and it's a big match because it's time for Steve. Steve's going to be made by Hashimoto, and, you know, so Hashimoto's beating the crap out of him. And then Steve's corner is myself, Frankie Kazarian, and Low-Key. And if you never got a chance to really talk to Low-Key or Frankie Kazarian, those guys are two of the biggest heels there is, you know, just in a good way. They're just, that's how they are. Steve's getting the crap kicked out of him by Hashimoto, and we're in the corner not paying attention to the match like we're supposed to, but spotting out the girls we're trying to get back to the motel room later that night. There's actually one part that Steve's on the other side of the ring bleeding, and Hashimoto walks over to us and says, go check on him, in his Japanese voice, because we're not paying attention to what's going on.
Wow.
That's funny.
Now, CW, I know according to, you know, on the internet, you had opened a wrestling school. Is that still in functioning?
No, I go every now and then if there's some kids that need to be, there's stuff to be tuned up, or they won't, you know, get ready for a match. It's actually my cousin has a place, and I use it as, you know, the school now, but it's been shut down for a few years because it got to the point where the kids didn't want to pay. They show up half the time without the money, and then, you know, they come 2 or 3 weeks, and my school was really hard. It was really difficult. Just the tryout to make through it was insane. It was something I, you know, stole from what I did when I tried out at Power Plant. And, you know, they would come, they'd barely make it through the tryout, they'd pay a little bit of money, they'd come for 2 or 3 weeks, then they quit, and then 6 months later they show up as trained wrestlers, and then saying that I trained them. And it happened on several occasions, and it got to the point it just won't worth it, man. I got better things to do on my Sunday. Hell, I'd rather, you know, follow the shade around my house and sit there and deal with that BS that it was getting to that point. Because a lot of the kids now, they just don't have the respect for the business. The trainers just don't beat it into them, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, my years are probably off here, but were you there at the power plant at the same time Palumbo and Batista were?
Batista, no. Palumbo, yes, because I actually helped train Palumbo.
Okay.
So all the natural born thrillers, there was many a days that I was training them. These guys are on contract, you know, and I'm sitting there training them. Because Sarge, there was days coming in that he'd had to work with Goldberg, and there was only 3 rings in the power plant. One of the rings was getting the canvas painted for Monday Night Nitro or Thunder or whatever. I was Thunder. Yeah, it was Thunder. They were getting their canvas painted. They put a new canvas every show for that place. And so Sarge would send them over to me to train. Me and my buddy Curtis White, who did some stuff called Frog near the end with PG-13. He sent them to us to train.
Mm. Okay. Right, because we had Palumbo on CW. He was actually one of our first guys we interviewed, and he told us some stories about the power plant, and he said he knew Dave Batista couldn't make it through because of the training, I guess, regimen that you guys had there at the power plant. He talked about how tough it was and how some people couldn't cut it.
It was a 97, 98% failure rate. You'd have 40 guys start out on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and at the end of the day, you'd have 5. And at the end of the day on Thursday, you'd have maybe 2. No, Batista couldn't make it. You know, when they made Big Show go through it, and it was just, they were actually helping him through the first, you know, all 3 days, because it's, you know, you're doing 1,500 to 2,000 free squats plus 500-600 push-ups. Then you're doing neck bridges. You're getting in the ring, running back and forth. You're going outside running for 45 solid minutes doing wind sprints. and it's from 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon, and you get a 20-minute lunch, and there's no other breaks.
But with all that being done, does that mean you're going to be worth being the wrestler? Obviously, I understand the fact that you want to run off people who, like you said, don't want to pay their money or is not going to show up after 3 weeks. But did it need to be to that extreme?
To get the couch potatoes out of there, I would think so, because the ones that actually stick it through have a heart. It's like Sarge always said, he wants to find people that have heart, to make it through this business, because it's to make it through the tryout, because it's a tough business, and most of the guys that make it through are athletes, and that's what they're wanting. They don't want some nasty fat nasty couch potato that's 250, 270 pounds, thinking he can do this on TV and go out there and make it. He wants to be, because Sarge, not only was he training you, he was in your face screaming. He wanted the mental abuse. It was, 3 of the guys, I had the largest class that ever made it through. There was 31 guys that started, and 5 made it. And 3 of the guys that was in my class that made it said they went to Paris. They were at Paris Island, South Carolina, for the Marines, and they said that 8 weeks they didn't hold a candle to the 3 days we had to go through at the power plant.
Wow.
It might have been a little overkill, might have been a little extreme, but it's something that once you made it through and you come back, it's like a completely different place. They welcome you with open arms, because they see you have, quote unquote, that heart to make it and stick it out.
Mhm. Well, if it's you had to retire tomorrow, and you look back at your career, did you get everything out of it that you hoped for? Is there anything? If there's one thing left for you to do, what would that be?
I wish I would have had a fairer shot at WWE than what I did. I wish I wasn't in the best shape when I went there, because I was just coming off the back problems and the liver problems, and that wasn't an excuse. But I wish I'd have had a fairer shot. And I don't know if you guys heard the stories of the things they tried to do to me while I was there, because they could never find anything wrong with my work. If they would have let me, it's like Arn Anderson told one of the other agents one day. He said if they let CW do his thing, he'd be one of the most over guys in this company. I think that'd be the only thing, is just not make it so much a bodybuilding, or have the great body, make it wrestling what it should be, and and give me a fair shot, because it's not an ego thing for me, because I don't have that big of an ego, but I still say I'm for 6-7 years I was considered the most underrated worker in the world, Japan and here in the States, and I still think I can go with anybody, and I proved I worked with Scorpio, whose style I never worked with. I worked with this John K guy. I worked with Masato Tanaka, Shinjiro Otani, all different guys, and I've stole shows with them. So I think that's it. I would have got a fairer shot, and it not being so damn political there.
Now, if somebody out there is unfamiliar with your work, what is the one match that you think you would send them to try to look for, to find, to say this is why I was so underrated and everything?
My I Quit, for one. I wish they could see, and I had a match with Masato Tanaka in Japan, where I had 10,000 people standing on their feet. We were having a title match, and just the match. It's either that, or I have a match from PWF with Tanaka. That those two that people low key, who I respect as a worker, Frankie Kazarian, Steve Corino, and Christopher Downs, guy said that was way better than my I Quit match. So it'd be one of those two.
Okay. All right. Well, we're closing up here, and we don't want to keep it online. But is there anything you'd like to tell your fans before you go?
Well, to you guys for having me on, I really appreciate it. To all the fans that followed me over the years, where you love me or hated me, hey, you at least my mind, I was in your mind one way or the other. Thank you to everyone, and I hope by listening to this interview, you go back and watch some of my old stuff and just know that while I was out there, no matter if there was 20 people in the crowd like there was on the show I was on Saturday night, or 10,000 people, I went out there and give you guys 100%, and every night, hurt or not.
All right. Do you your MySpace or your blog